Hello, hello, the microphone is on! Hello, gorgeous humans of the interwebs. Welcome to eSpot Live. I'm Ellie. Rodney is here, but not quite in frame. I'm still working on that bit. It's just, like, the perch I have is just too, like, you can see his hair. Hashtag priorities. Who cares about me? Let's bring Rodney in frame. In case you haven't noticed, I've been experiencing technical difficulties. What else is new? If you're new here, this is eSpot Live. I'm Ellie, this is Rodney. Rodney is my emotional support duck, and frankly the most important part of this little shindig we throw here. First, I always start these with disclaimers. I also tend to just try to be completely, blatantly honest on this. I had mentioned last time I was live was actually on Elevated last Friday. I'm being let know that the music is loud, so I'm gonna adjust that a bit. Thank you for that feedback. Is that better? There we go. I think that was better. My screen doesn't want to cooperate. Perfect. Yay. Thank you, Panda. I appreciate that. Okay. My setup's a bit different than it usually is, just in the interest of full honesty, which is why I'm struggling with technical difficulties. For once in my life, the internet is working just fine, better than it usually does. I'm chuffed to bits with my internet. Everything else, on the other hand, specifically every other technical issue that I actually have a direct hand in, we're on a little bit of a struggle bus. But we have fun with it. I want to also just thank the ever so lovely Panda / Hannah who helped me out on Monday, came in clutch when my technical difficulties were to such an extent that while I was able to join in the chat, I was not able to join via the video webs internet things. I'm stalling a little bit because I'm trying to get something to work on my end. This is entirely on my end. And then hopefully we'll be able to jump into newsy stuffs. Hopefully, being the operative word. I'm like, unless it's, in case it's not obvious, I'm trying to make some very subtle adjustments here. Wow, okay, that's picky. We're gonna go with that. Okay, I think this is as good as I'm gonna get it. Hey, okay, I can see everything I need to on my screen. Yeah, I have a slightly different setup than what I have become accustomed to, but for very, very exciting reasons. I'm not supposed to hype E3 until a little bit later on, but forget it. I'm gonna hype E3 now. If you haven't heard, Devious Eye Entertainment is a part of E3, and it's so exciting. And as has already been announced, so I'm finally allowed to blabber about it. I'm part of it, which, guys, oh my gosh, the level of excitement is so high. I literally don't know how to express it. So yeah, exciting stuff coming. That may or may not be why my setup's a bit different. All good things, all good things. And for those of you who are worried, I will not be in charge of the tech come E3, so that part should not be a problem. But we're good. Everything looks like it's supposed to now. Thank you for bearing with me while I very, very overtly stalled at the beginning of eSpot Live. Yeah, let's dive straight into news topics. I don't even remember if I had said this already, but eSpot Live is a live stream where I babble about just different topics in the entertainment industry, and we have fun here. The chat gets loot. Hey, Pro Mommies in the chat, welcome. Good to see you. Or in your name. Good to see your name. However that works. I'm excited. And as Panda says, talking about the tech for E3, that'll be someone else's problem. It's true. It's true. Okay, first topic to chat about today is kind of a sad one. But Jujutsu Kaisen, and I'm sure that I butchered that pronunciation. Again, I looked it up ahead of time. I always do. It is what it is. Has announced an indefinite hiatus due to the creator's health. So yeah, kind of starting off on something sad, but I think it's a super important topic because it's not something that's addressed very often outside of just random rumors, typically speaking. And while I'm talking a little bit, keep me updated on how the background music is going. Sorry, I know I just kind of went way off topic for a second there. I think my headphones just went out, so I can't hear anything that's happening. So let me know how that goes. It's always fun. There's always an adventure with eSpot Live. But yeah, getting back to the serious topic. For those of you who may not be familiar with it, Jujutsu Kaisen might be really one of the biggest manga being published these days. But its size and popularity doesn't necessarily mean it's invulnerable to changes, specifically when that change hinges on the individual behind it. As you can imagine, with something that blew up the way that the story did, the creator has been under a bit of stress in bringing his supernatural series to life. And now a new report has confirmed that Jujutsu Kaisen is going on an indefinite hiatus as creator Akutami addresses a few health issues that have come up recently. This information came to light a bit earlier when certain sites like WSI Manga hit up Twitter with the news. And so it was actually on Twitter that fans learned that Akutami is taking this indefinite break in order to kind of see what happens next. So Weekly Shonen Jump will be resting Yuji Itadori until further notice. According to the official report, Jujutsu Kaisen will go on hiatus officially in Weekly Shonen Jump number 28. In a note penned by Akutami himself, the artist says he believes his hiatus will last a month, but that it's not set in stone. So that's where that kind of indefinite language is being thrown around. That he's got a goal to step away and come back, but due to the circumstances behind the hiatus, none of that has been absolutely set in stone. So it could be a bit longer. It could even be shorter, depending on what happens and how Akutami is feeling. So, for those of you not familiar with the creative genius behind this hit manga, the artist began dabbling in art at a very young age, born late February 1992 in Japan. He went on to draw inspiration from hit series like Bleach, Hunter, I think that's Hunter by Hunter, Hunter versus Hunter, Hunter x Hunter. How do you say that? I thought I was prepared for this. But went on to pull inspiration from other big name series and then published his own prequel to Jujutsu Kaisen in 2017. And that was right before his fully serialized story went live in 2018. So this kind of means, when you look at the timeline of that Akutami has been working absolutely doggedly for 4 years straight without any sort of break, and that tends to have an impact on one's health. And here's kind of where I wanted to bring up, like, that drama versus behind the scenes bits that people don't really like to talk about. Y'all know that I'm a stickler for hydration, and that's kind of an ongoing joke, but it's also super serious because as generally funny and silly as it is, I feel the entertainment industry is not the only industry that's known for this, but is definitely known for crunch time, for like working in kind of in waves, in a sense. Like, you never know when success is going to hit, and then when it hits, you just run with it for as long as you possibly can. When a story gets picked up, it's very similar. And so you see this a lot in sometimes in interviews after the fact of actors who work on shows, because you audition for a show, right? You audition for a pilot as an actor, and you never know what that's going to look like. That could look like a just one-off event where you film it and it never gets picked up. It could be picked up and you last for about half a season and then you're kind of dropped, and that's the norm in the TV world from an acting perspective. But from the consumer's perspective, the shows we're all familiar with are the ones that run for years and years and years, right? That's the one everybody knows about. So when you look on the other side of that spectrum again, at the creative side, you have these people who pick up a project, and it might be a week's worth of work, it might be a month's worth of work, or a year, or suddenly it's 7 years later and you have not breathed. And I kind of like automatically go into that acting world because that's the realm that I'm a little bit personally more familiar with. But obviously it happens in other realms as well. So we've seen this with this creator of this very popular manga. You know, he launched his project, his baby, and it worked. And because it worked, and because it's the entertainment industry, it hasn't stopped. And that does, it really, really takes a toll. And I think it's just important to, if nothing else, put it out there, to talk about it, to talk about ways to kind of maybe switch it up. Find new ways. And that's part of what DVSI Entertainment stands for, is finding new ways to produce art, hopefully without the burnout. So yeah, random little Ellie thoughts there. Also, hello, Wolf. I see you in the chat. Good to see you here. And Wolf says, I really have to find somewhere a graphics card is in stock to upgrade. If that's in reference to the video, my lighting is terrible tonight. So if you can't see me, I don't think it's your graphics card. Thank you also for the bits. But no, it's definitely my face in this scenario. And the fact that I've got a little bit of a new setup, which I babbled a bit about and stalled with when I first started the live stream. So yeah, we're working on fixing that situation. But yeah, as it stands at the moment, the lighting is horrendous. So I apologize. It's not your graphics card though, if that's any consolation. Not to dissuade you from buying a new graphics card, because the answer to that is always yes, when you can afford it and it's a responsible decision to make. All right, that's enough very kind of weirdly lecturing that whole thing went on. So next topic. Hey-o. Next thing to chat about is that it has officially been confirmed that Overwatch is getting crossplay eventually. So cross-platform play has been a very long requested feature of Overwatch, and Blizzard has finally answered those prayers 5 years after its launch. Crossplay is coming to the hit multiplayer game, and to make sure that it works as intended, Blizzard's actually going to be holding a crossplay beta before it rolls out in full. So this crossplay beta will be available on all versions of Overwatch. So that's PlayStation, Xbox consoles, as well as Switch and PC. So they're on all those platforms, and they're working on melding it all together. So this beta is going to be powered by the latest Battle.net update, and will allow players from all over the globe to team up with friends and teammates on different platforms to defend payloads, spray tags, all manner of Overwatch goodness. However, this cross progression will not be available at launch, so we're still not quite sure how they're rolling this out, what their timeline is, how they want to do this. But it's also worth noting too that even as they're rolling out this beta, they're very much in a testing mode, but they're working on it. Yay! People have been asking for it. Like, we're making steps towards it. By we, I mean them, because I have nothing to do with this at all. But some game modes will have special conditions for crossplay, specifically with the matchmaking that the algorithm sets up. Parties of console players will match with other console players by default. PC players will match with opponents on PC, as well as groups consisting of PC and console players. So there's a lot of kind of back and forth with that, and trying to tweak and come up with a good solid way to roll out this beta testing. But right now what it looks like is if you are a console player with crossplay enabled, and solo join a quick play match, you will be matched with other players on any console, but not with PC players. If you are a console player and form a party with friends on both consoles and PC, then you'll be placed in the PC matching pool and will face PC players and parties of PC/console players. If you disable crossplay on console, then you'll only be matched with players on your specific platform, and PC players cannot disable crossplay. So if you're on PC in this beta rollout, you could be paired with parties that involve console players and PC players. So, a lot of all of that. I'm just looking at the chat really quick. Is that Rodney Unicorn? There's a Rodney Unicorn? Hold up, guys. This is way more exciting than news. When did this happen? How did this happen? Where did this happen? Hold up. Hold up. I can't find it. I need to find this. This just made my day. Panda says there's a channel point reward to edit emotes. So that's not something that everybody can see. That's only something you can do? Is that what's happening? What? Guys! I thought my life was made when there became a Rodney emote. But there's a Rodney Unicorn. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that took over everything in my brain for a few minutes there. I'm still freaking out a little bit. That makes me so happy, guys. Okay, but attempting to focus, the exception to some of this is competitive play. We're talking about crossplay on Overwatch, by the way, for people who got as distracted by my distraction as I am. Heyo. So in competitive play, you will not be able to play as a party of both PC and console players. Instead, each player base will have their own dedicated matchmaking pools. So the Battle.net update also merges friends lists, and this is really, really cool, from different territories into a unified listing. So this means you're not going to have to switch regions to play with a buddy on the opposite side of the globe. As someone with friends in many very random places, that kind of perk makes me so happy. That's even more so than, like, the console to console. Getting to play from, like, location to location is even more exciting for me. So, now the biggest question, right? So, how do you indulge in the cross-play beta? Blizzard says you'll first need to make a Battle.net account, assuming you don't have one already. The link, or then you link said account to your console, and honestly, that should do it. That should do the trick for you. If you get all of this set up and log into Overwatch by December 31st, you'll be rewarded with a golden loot box. Blizzard says the beta will begin soon, but has not provided any exact date yet. It kind of seems a little surprising that this huge update is, you know, taking place now when Overwatch 2 is looming on the horizon. So I'm going to be very clear with this. This is not confirmed, but maybe this means that we're going to see some crossplay in Overwatch on launch day. No clue, not confirmed. Just to be clear, that's just Ellie hoping. I think that'd be cool. But, I mean, you know, we're looking at the time frames here. And typically, companies wouldn't want to hype up. Well, I guess you would want to hype up your first game. I'm so sorry, Rodney. Hashtag priorities. You do want to hype up your first game right before you release a sequel anyways, but it's still, this isn't just hyping the first game. This is introducing beta play on a brand new model in the first game right before releasing a sequel. So, yeah, maybe they have plans. We'll just have to wait and see. Also worth noting, in, you know, chatting about Overwatch 2, Blizzard has shared that it's revealing 2 new skins for that game during Summer Games Fest. So that actually was slated to happen today, and due to the time, it's probably already happened. I'm still freaking out about that Rodney Unicorn, gotta say. Alright, next up, speaking of competitive play, there was a bit of drama in the Hearthstone European Grandmasters tournament when a Grandmaster rage quit during the Grand's final match. Guys, why is there so much drama in this industry? Yeah, so the Grandmasters tournament, like, the entire thing ended with, I was gonna say with a bang, but not really. The biggest combination of, like, dramatic and anticlimactic that you can think when a French player, X Blizes, intentionally disconnected from the match against Spain's Fnatic at the very end of the match. So both players were tied at this point in time at 2 games, and it was a best of 3 grand final game. X Blizes at low health had no creatures in play, could not summon a last-ditch defense against Fnatic's onslaught, and instead of either conceding the match or letting Fnatic win, like you'd imagine, and it's typical in this community too, specifically in the Hearthstone community, other card games, etc., X Blizes chose to walk away by intentionally disconnecting from the game in what appears to be a rage quit. My first thought with this was, frankly, you know, and I feel kind of snooty, but how unprofessional and unsportsmanlike. My second thought was to read a little bit more. X Blizes is a 20-year-old professional Hearthstone player. And then I was like, oh, I don't know. It's like, I'm torn now, because on the one hand, that's not a good way to behave. I think we can all somewhat agree on that. But on the other hand, my brain is going, oh, he's just a baby. He's a kid. Still, I feel like you should grow out of rage quitting on games eventually. Like, maybe when you're professional. I don't know. A lot of thoughts. I feel like I didn't have the best emotional control when I was 20. I don't have the best emotional control now at times. Still don't know if I would have done that, but, you know, to each their own. It's interesting. But, X Blizes also, and again, I'm probably butchering the name because internet names are even harder to pronounce than real life names. I don't think that was the right way to word it, because internet names are real life names, but I know what I mean. I think you guys do too. This player also won Season 2 European Grandmasters Tournament last year in 2020. I had to think through that way harder than I should have. I don't know if you guys saw that hesitation there, but I literally forgot what year it was. Anyways. On Twitter, X Blizes took his loss very hard and actually defended his behavior, because I was not the only one thinking it was unsportsmanlike. And he tweeted, "Sorry to be mad because I lost the most important match of my life." And so here's the thing, because that's valid feelings, 100%. But just not the best move. I don't know. Do y'all have thoughts on this? Because I'm brand new to the gaming world. Most of you guys know this. If you don't, I just started playing games like a couple of months ago. You can check out Elevated and see my butchered attempts. Actually, I'm still trying to figure out how to get videos to save, so you might be able to see some butchered attempts. I'm just learning. But anyone who's like a hardcore, familiar gamer who has a lot of experience with this type of game, with competitive gaming, even if it's not necessarily professional gaming, what are your thoughts on that concept of somebody being in a final match, a Grandmaster final match, and unplugging because they lost before the game was over? Is that as dramatic as it feels to me? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat. But anyways, like I said, the feelings behind it 100% I get that frustration. I get the anger, and I don't know how the adrenaline works in a that online sports-esque professional competition setting versus like a sport. But yeah. Anyways, X Blizes has had a tough time this run. It's been an 8-week-long Grandmasters tournament. Early on in the competition, he was fined and docked 2 points for arriving late to a match. He was also accused of win trading with his opponent, Zim. So win trading involves agreeing to lose a match in exchange for money or later wins, and is against tournament rules. In a tweet longer translated from French by Kataku, X-Blizes denies those accusations, saying, "I'm not so stupid to the point of voluntarily win trading and to stay around." A second place finish nets X-Blizes $2,000 USD in prize money, so he's still getting a decent amount. He is still eligible to compete in Season 2 of the Grandmasters Tournament, which starts in August. It's yet to be seen if Blizzard will punish X-Blizes for his actions, for his rage quit, or if those accusations of win trading will go on to further investigation. But worth mentioning that somebody who kind of rage quits and then owns it and defends it, like he doesn't seem to think that he did anything wrong there. I feel like if he had done the win trading, he probably would have owned it. Maybe that's making some assumptions there, but you know, 'tis what it is. But yeah, that's all I got on that particular topic, unless you guys have thoughts. Like I said, I'm really curious for anyone who is a competitive gamer, what you think about that idea of unplugging. But, you know, there we go. Next up is Conan O'Brien, who has booked his final guest, which is kind of a crazy thought. It's been more than 10 years on the air. Conan O'Brien is about to bid farewell to his TBS late night show called Conan. And the series finale guest is Jack Black, which I think is an excellent choice there. The final will air on June 24th. So Black's appearance was announced alongside a lineup of celebrities that will be guests during the show's final 2 weeks on air. So that's going to be beginning June 14th. Conan will host Patton Oswalt, Martin Short, JB Smoove, Mila Kunis, Bill Hader, and one more person that's yet to be announced. Dana Carvey will be a guest on the penultimate episode. And in addition to that, the final episodes will feature several surprise guests to help provide a retrospective on O'Brien's late night tenure. O'Brien will be able to give Conan a proper send-off, as the final episodes will welcome a live studio audience for the first time in over a year. They are requiring vaccinations and masks for all attendees, so they're still being safe about it, which I always love to hear. Conan had been filming remotely throughout the pandemic, for kind of obvious reasons, though the show very recently began inviting guests in for in-person interviews. Conan's End will be a 1-hour finale, which will air an hour earlier than the usual at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. The TBS show regularly airs 30-minute episodes on Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. The finale will mark an end to what has in full been a 27-year era of late night television. That's a long time. O'Brien has not gone a full year without hosting a late night show since 1993. That's a chunk of time, guys. He began his run on NBC's Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 1993. And then he moved from late night to The Tonight Show in 2010, but network politics kind of brought a bit of an abrupt end to that tenure only a few months in, and then O'Brien quickly found a new late night home on TBS. He's not expected to return to late night hosting anytime soon, which is the crazy thing. Like I said, this show itself has been on for 10 years, and then it's been 27 years of late night show hosting. But it's not excuse me. We're not saying goodbye to Conan O'Brien in full. The comedian is working on an upcoming weekly variety show for HBO Max, though few details have been revealed. Additionally, he'll continue to expand his production company and its podcast offerings. It's also been noted that Jack Black's appearance on Conan will likely be ceremonial as opposed to promotional. But there we have it. An epic show as wrapping up a very long tenure. And Yeah, end of an era. I feel like that's happening with a lot of talk shows. Is it like... I feel like maybe we're coming to an end of talk shows as we know it, moving towards a new format. Who knows? Maybe there'll just be more people babbling on live streams. Not really. On that note, I think this is an excellent time and place to take our regularly scheduled hydration break. It is time to hydrate or dehydrate. Drink some water. I'm about to. It's good for your kidneys, good for your throat, good for your mind. And I know too many dehydrated people. Go drink water. I'll be right back. Thank you for waiting with me, for drinking some water, getting hydrated. I had a thought. It was a solid thought, and then right before it was spoken, it just went away. Oh well, alas, there it is. Next up to chat about. Apparently, there have been recent inquiries as to whether or not Zack Snyder would be willing to make a Dragon Ball Z movie. Not something that I anticipated, but you know, I can kind of see it. And apparently it's been brought up enough that he's chimed in enough to say that he'd be open to it. So he goes on, Zack Snyder said that he would be interested in directing a Dragon Ball Z movie if the right opportunity arose. So Zack Snyder's built much of his career off of comic book adaptations like 300, Watchmen, DCEU films like Justice League, and he's been beginning to venture deeper into the realm of animation with a few upcoming projects at Netflix, which I learned about when looking at this, which is kind of cool. So as anime remakes and adaptations have been trending, Snyder might end up being in the running to helm one of them down the line, and that's been in talks among fans recently. The legacy of westernized anime adaptations isn't necessarily a proud one. Live action movies based on popular anime series have flunked more often than not, with most of the successful attempts originated, unsurprisingly, from Japan rather than from the West. However, Netflix has begun to dive into the world of making these adaptations, and they started with the adaptations they know they're good at, so they've been building that, which is nice. And then, you know, you had 2017's Death Note, featured stars like William Dafoe, and upcoming adaptations like Cowboy Bebop and One Piece are in the works, and now it's looking like a Snyder-led anime adaptation might also be a possibility. Via comic book, Snyder discussed the possibility of helming an anime remake during a very recent interview with Tyrone Magnus. The director was asked about Dragon Ball Z specifically, but he responded openly to the idea of anime adaptations in general, remarking that he's been watching anime frequently with his kids. Snyder is quoted as saying, "I would consider that. I mean, if it came right. But definitely I would do an anime remake or live action. That would be fun because I love animation, and I watch a ton of anime with my kid, who's too young to watch it, but we watch anyway." End quote. After the complicated fallout with Warner Bros., Snyder has what seems to be a more positive working relationship building with Netflix. His latest feature, Army of the Dead, released on the streaming service in May to very positive reviews, and he's already in the process of developing several spin-off projects set in the same universe. One of those projects is an anime series. The director is also developing a second animated series for Netflix based on Norse mythology. I don't know why that word was difficult to say, but there it is. Pretty excited about that. That means Snyder's already been handed the keys to helm major live-action and animated content for Netflix. Which is a studio that, like I said, has already dipped its toes into anime adaptations. So, maybe. I'll say it's not necessarily the most likely thing in the world that Netflix is going to get the rights to adapt or remake Dragon Ball Z, especially after 2009's Dragon Ball Evolution. Not really doing so hot. But Netflix does seem to be committed to a long-term partnership with Snyder. So you never know. He could be brought on to helm a different anime adaptation somewhere down the line. So yeah. We'll have to kind of see how that goes. But it's a fun idea to play around with. I think fans have more power than most people realize when it comes to asking for content. So if this is something that people want to see, could be something that ends up happening eventually. You never know. Going into the comic book world a little bit, which is a bit different there, but kind of related. There was a transition there somewhere. Harley Quinn in the DC universe has revealed the villain that the Joker was afraid of. What? So throughout Tom King's run on both Batman and Batman/Catwoman, the Joker and Catwoman have a very interesting relationship. The pair shared a quiet conversation before Selina's aborted marriage to Batman in Batman number 49 by King and Michael Janin, speaking like old friends instead of criminal rivals. The future in Batman/Catwoman has revealed a lot more about their surprising bond as the two villains who most understood Batman, with Catwoman even becoming something of a confidant to the clown prince of crime. And this was forced to reveal their connection to a very disapproving Batman in order to save lives. Other criminals also noted that the pair were always together during villain team-ups, chattering and joking like old friends. It's all built into the events of Batman/Catwoman when an elderly Selina, following Bruce's death, found and executed the Joker while he was in hiding. Plot twist! Or maybe not. It turns out, according to Harley Quinn, that this was something that the Joker always knew was coming, and that made Catwoman the one villain he genuinely feared. This all kind of comes out in a confrontation when Harley Quinn confronts Selina on the doorstep of Wayne Manor, enraged that Catwoman stole the satisfaction of killing the Joker once and for all. She attacks in costume. Selina defends herself, and the pair kind of carries out a full-on conversation, which I always also do when I'm fighting. Kidding, I don't fight. But during the fight, Harley reveals that the Joker always admitted to her in private that he was convinced that his eventual end would come at the hands of Catwoman. Harley, especially at the beginning, could not understand why. She kind of just saw Catwoman on a surface level. And she thought it would always be a hero who'd finally kill the clown prince of crime. If the villain finally managed to push someone like Batman or Superman into ending him once and for all. But the Joker apparently told Harley by that point, the heroes had seen him do so many terrible things over the years, and they still hadn't been able to kill him. And then he would say that Catwoman has always seen far worse from the world than anything that he could throw at her, and so it left him quiet and contemplative. So yeah, it's a thing that had apparently been something that he knew about. Interesting how that played out in their relationship. But there we go. It does speak to a certain almost respect between the villains, as well as a recognition of where they came from. So unlike almost all of Batman's rogues, Catwoman is truly from the streets of Gotham. She learned how to fight and steal and eventually kill, if it means survival. The fact that the Joker knows that she's seen worse and has survived it hints at his level of respect for her. But it's also very interesting to think about the fact that this means that she's the one villain who he was actually afraid of. The one person that the Joker knew could and likely would one day make the decision to end him. And be completely unbothered by that choice, which I think is the key here. It's not just that Catwoman killed him, but the fact that she's the one person in this world that could do so, and do so without hesitation or regret at all. Whereas if it was a hero, right? And that's why the heroes never could, because they have that pre-regret going on. They could never bring themselves to actually kill him. But Selena was just like, alright, we done. So yeah, not only was he afraid of her, but it looks like that fear was valid and realized when the Joker bled out because Catwoman casually sliced his throat during their final confrontation. As you do. Again, she appears to be the one figure who would do such a thing and not be moved or conflicted by her choice at all, which really does kind of make it very understandable why she was the one that the Joker was afraid of. The Joker, someone who absolutely thrives on terrorizing others. But there we have it. Next up, let's chat E3 a little bit, but like historic E3. Because ahead of E3 2021, a very old blog post has been circulating, which documents an account from the same expo 20 years ago. This little blurb blog post was written by longtime Nintendo director Masahiro Sakurai, who recounts his experience of showing Super Smash Bros. Melee to Western fans for the first time. And it reveals some really interesting tidbits of the showcase. Perhaps most notable is how he was genuinely very surprised that Western gamers enjoyed the E3 2001 demo so much. He wrote, quote, "I've been to E3 many times, but this was the first time that the Nintendo booth was so crowded." Which is a crazy thing to think about, like a time when Nintendo was not popular. Or like when Nintendo creators were surprised by the popularity of it. That just blows my mind. Originally he had underestimated, to put it lightly, the enthusiasm and only had one console set up for 4-player matches. The quote goes on to say, "I was relieved to find that Smash really is enjoyed by many people around the world." And then goes on to explain how they had to dig around for more controllers after the first day in order to meet the demand at the expo. As pleased as he was to see everyone wanting to try out the new Smash, he still had some choice words for those who were taking it all a bit too seriously. And in a plea that would originally go largely unnoticed, but is now kind of, you know, melting hearts with nostalgia, he wrote, "Please stop beating the snot out of people who have obviously never played before. My apologies to the beginners out there." And then he goes on to close out the blog in a truly heartwarming fashion. clearly touched that so many people were eager to try out his new game. And he says, I saw all sorts of people who had never played before yelling in excitement and laughing at mishaps, getting surprised by new stages and characters, mastering various techniques, and having a good time. I feel lucky to be making this game. These 3 days gave me a renewed determination to keep doing my best for all of these people. End quote. So this blog post originates from Nintendo's official Melee website, which, yes, is still live. But there's also a very accurate English translation, courtesy of sourcegaming.info. This is just a fascinating, heartwarming glimpse back to a very different era when Smash's worldwide success was very much up in the air, in the balance. Nobody knew what was going to happen with it. Fast forward 20 years, and Sakurai is still working away on the series, continuously adding fighters to the most recent installment, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So looking back at E3 in days gone by, and yeah, this idea that somebody had this game that was popular enough in some places, but hadn't even been introduced to the Western world. That just to me is fascinating. Looking at yeah, just thinking about it now from the perspective of that, somebody kind of going to E3 and showing this thing and being very surprised by the reception of it. It gives me hope. So there it is. One more topic to chat about today, and there's really no good transition because it's a completely different direction, but it is what it is. I talked a little bit ago about Activision CEO Bobby Kotick getting a bit of a pay slash. However, according to investment groups, he is still overpaid, and some people are beginning to think it very problematic. So in June of 2020, CTW Investment Group, which, quote, works with union-sponsored pension funds to enhance long-term stockholder value, end quote, called on Activision shareholders to vote against a proposed compensation package for CEO Bobby Kotick. Kotick had received nearly $100 million in combined stock and option rewards alone, according to executive director at the time, which is an amount that has consistently been larger than the total pay, which is the sum of base salary, annual bonus, and equity pay of CEO peers at similar companies. So that means that he's getting paid his one single bonus, his stock bonus alone, has been larger than the total pay of other CEOs in the same group. Also worth noting, CTW was not especially enamored with Activision's competitors either. They made similar complaints about Electronic Arts a month later. The Activision bid failed, but shareholders actually rejected the proposed pay packages for EA executives. In April of this year, Kotick signed a new employment extension agreement with Activision in which he agreed to cut his base salary and bonuses in half, which is a move that the company says reflects shareholder feedback, incorporates market best practices, and continues to directly connect pay to performance, end quote. Again, you think of a 50% pay slash, and that's a massive amount of money, but it's not like he's going to be suffering too much. His base salary will still be $875,000 after the cut, and bonuses could net him another $1.75 million on top of that. So again, he's still doing all right. He's probably got a little bit saved up from previous bonus payouts as well. Even so, 50% cut, it's a deep cut, but it does not go far enough for CTW Group. In an official statement, they said that the 2-year term of his employment extension, quote, is too short to significantly impact his total pay for an extended time, end quote. So as a result, they are calling again on shareholders to vote against the Say on Pay proposal and the re-election of Activision's Compensation Committee chair. The statement goes on to say The Compensation Committee did not address long-standing shareholder concerns about executive pay practices at Activision by extending CEO Kotick's contract by less than 2 years. Given the repeated opposition to CEO Kotick's pay over the years, shareholders should expect to see a long-term reform of his compensation over a greater period than merely 1 year. The CEO's 2021 Equity Award will accelerate at maximum payout level, leaving most of the compensation reductions to apply to only 1 full year, which will be 2022, and as such may only cover the Equity Award for the next year. The duration of Kotick's employment extension means that his pay could be renegotiated again, and presumably up, as soon as April 2023, which is less than 2 years from now. Furthermore, the period overlaps with Activision's shareholder value creation incentive programs, the terms of which have already been met for the maximum possible payout. So this means that the only full year for which Mr. Kotick will see a meaningful equity pay reduction is 2022, according to the CTW Investment Group. In other words, the extension is not long enough to represent an earnest effort by the Compensation Committee to reduce the CEO's outsized equity pay over a sustained period. So essentially, this group kind of tapped on the pay committee and was like, guys, you got to do something about this. This guy is overpaid, and it's not good for the shareholders. The shareholders don't like that because it's spending money. And then they're like, all right, we know what we're going to do about it. We're going to write in a contract that slashes his pay. Again, still making well over what many other peers are making in the industry, but there it is. And then they slashed his pay, but for as short a period of time as they could. And not only that, the 2-year period that they kind of cut the pay for is a very, very, not only is it a temporary thing to begin with, but because of the payout being kind of a roll forward thing, he's really only going to see it for that 1 year. So yeah, they're not overly happy with that. It'll be very interesting to see how this goes forward. I am always fascinated by seeing how people interact and how trying to think of good words for this. I'm always interested in seeing who wins in situations like this. Because let's be real, it's rarely the people. But anything like this is precedent setting. So if CTW Group wins, essentially, gets what they're asking for in more and more cases and gains respect in that way, it could make changes throughout the industry as a whole. So always interesting to keep an eye out on. And obviously, if any exciting news comes out of it, we'll share that with you as well. But that's it. That's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for joining. Guys, if you have not already, register as a fan on E3's website so you can interact with our virtual booth, because Devious Eye Entertainment is going to E3. We're going to be active 24 hours throughout the entirety of E3. I've got a link for you. If you have not already signed up, definitely do so. I'm going to throw that link in the chat as soon as I can find it. Boom. Expo. Be a fan. We're going to be live. We're going live at E3 on June 12th. We're going to be showing off 7 games during the broadcast. You're going to be able to interact with members of Devious Eye Entertainment and Before the Storm in the chat. You might see a familiar face. We cannot, I literally can't put it into words how excited we are. So check us out. Get hyped. I'm super excited for this weekend because it's this weekend. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's all I got. Come join us at E3 this weekend. I'll be back here as well on Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, so that's 6 p.m. if you're on the other coast. And yeah, if I don't get to see you or interact with you over the weekend, I hope you have a good one regardless of what you end up doing, but go to E3. In the meantime, until the next time, stay happy and healthy and kind, and I love what Panda said last time. Love yourself, love others. It's really what it all comes down to at the end of the day. Stay hydrated. And of course, as always, stay devious.